Hello, Vault Hunters. Let's have a chat, shall we? I want to talk about Borderlands 3. Ring a bell? Well, it's Tamex has brought me here today to share with you all the history of Pandora's newest adventure, and why it has come to an end so quickly, just 2 years after release. What went wrong, you may ask? A question many ask with so little answers. But today, we shall speak of this tale and say our final goodbyes to a game deep in our hearts, and look onward to the Wonderlands.
Hello guys, Termex here, and in today's video, I decided to team up with a bunch of Borderlands 3 and just in general Borderlands content creators to bring you guys and the community a final goodbye to Borderlands 3. And now we all know with Wonderlands very close, less than a month away by the time this video is posted, it's going to be the next big thing within the Borderlands community, and Borderlands 3 is most likely not going to get a lot of love during that time. But the premise of this video is to bring together all the community into one video, talk about our closing thoughts about the game, if it be positive or negative, and just generally thank everything that Borderlands and Borderlands 3 has done for us, both in the gaming world and the real world. Now the first thing I will address, which is most likely the main elephant in the room, which is going to be Borderlands 3's content, or lack thereof content. A lot of people have different varying opinions on different contents, and if it was too easy, if it was too hard, but throughout the cycle, we did see a bunch of DLCs. We've seen Arms Race, we've seen 4 released DLCs, and we've seen the Director's Cut DLC. And through all these DLCs, we had a grand total of a singular raid boss. Some like to say it has been 2 raid bosses, but, you know, I'm not going to count Vermi because that's just, you know, the kind of like a throwback thing. But they definitely could have made things a little bit better. Raid bosses per DLC perhaps, like Borderlands 2 did, or even just general more takedowns. And I know based on the community's responses that the Maliwan takedown is probably one of the most perfect pieces of content that Borderlands has ever produced. And now I know the Guardian takedown did have a little bit more mixed community feedback, as people did not like the Destiny-esque style of raid types, and a lot of people were not huge fans of the parkour archetype, and that really strayed a lot of players away from said takedown. Sure, the boss and the fighting mechanics was great, that takedown had so many things going right for it, but the core things, the loot ratio to loot that was actually worth the entire raid, and lack of checkpoints during jumping puzzles just made it a very hazardous experience. On top of that, it's one of the only pieces of content in Borderlands that required you to stand still next to a crystal and defend it, and half the time it wouldn't even work. But now shifting from the content side of things that Borderlands 3 could have did better, I do want to touch on the storyline quite a bit, just because the storyline within Borderlands 3 was pretty mediocre. It almost seemed like the Borderlands 3 storyline was trying to pertain to a newer generation, which indeed it was. Borderlands 2 came out in 2012, and the world was definitely a different place back then. Now we're in 2019 when Borderlands 3 released, which is about 7 years later, so you gotta think that a lot of the humor and all that has changed in a big way, but more specifically, the enemies within the Borderlands franchise. When you look at Troy and Tyreen, you see them as villains trying to take over the world with their cults, but it doesn't ever seem like they're making an impact on the world. And I guess the only exception is when Maya's death occurred. And when Maya died, it was a pretty weird moments because it is such a controversial topic within the Borderlands community. Did Ava do it? Was it Maya's own doing? Is it Lilith's fault for not warning her about their powers? It's always been a constant thing up for debates, and honestly, after hearing what Gearbox said themselves that Maya was going to die either way was just a further development plot point, but I think they did it entirely wrong. Maya's death in no way felt memorable or even justified in my opinion. If anything, it was rather shocking to see it just happen within seconds, and then you're back on Sanctuary talking to Lilith again for the 57th time. Now, one more thing I do want to say about the storyline in Borderlands 3, and I will literally die on this pedestal. The cut deleted Ava scene is literally the best writing I've ever seen in Borderlands history. It is like such a amazing and awesome cutscene concept, and the fact that it was just not in the game and completely scrapped and replaced with Ava yelling, saying, "Figure it out, Lilith," and then running into a room, it irks me so bad, because that single cutscene could have changed our whole perspective on the Borderlands 3 story to make it a little bit better, And the whole Ava thing probably wouldn't be happening because Ava would seem like a decent character. And not only that, but this cutscene tells me that Gearbox and Borderlands in general have great writers. They have great writing potential, but it's like they're too afraid to take that leap of faith and do things that they truly want to do. But it just seems like it wasn't there in Borderlands 3, or it just things didn't piece together. And now Borderlands has always been a co-op centric game, always advertising 4 different Vault Hunters and co-op play, and they're one of the few games that supports 4-player split screen in 2022, which is usually a lost feature among 99% of games out right now. So why is the co-op within Borderlands so finicky? For a game that really inspires to be more co-op centered, they sure do not give the player a lot of matchmaking options when it comes to finding a game, finding slaughter shafts, or just finding a random person to play with in general. It always seems like a hassle just to get those type of things to work, and I do really feel like Borderlands 3 would benefit way more in its life cycle if these matchmaking issues were fixed a lot earlier on. Now, I do know PlayStation held up the whole crossplay thing, but I feel like even though it's only Xbox and PC, you're still getting a large portion of your player base to play with each other, but half the time it still doesn't work. And I do think that's another large reason why the game died off so quickly, because people want to play with their friends. They want to enjoy playing playthroughs or anything with their buddies, but we didn't really get that availability until a year and a half later, and even then it still has its fair share of bugs. And now, you do have to give some breaks because COVID-19 has impacted gaming in a pretty significant way. And games within these 3 years have not been great games. I hate to say it, but Battlefield 42. Games like that have not been great games, and they've pretty much flopped. Now, COVID indirectly does affect these studios just because COVID limits resources. It's a pretty basic concept that happens all across the world. If it be Amazon Prime shipping, the package you ordered from that one website we don't tell our mothers about, or anything of the sort. But I do have to say that part of Borderlands 3's misfire has to be with a little bit of COVID sprinkled in there as one of the main issues. Because if you look at the real raw things within Borderlands 3's DLCs, you see that the Creek DLC only had 15 side quests, and those 15 side quests were less than 3 minutes long. And for a Borderlands title, that is unheard of. Unheard of to have a brand new DLC with that little bit of content. One could argue maybe Moxie's Underdome was similar, but that was Borderlands 1 made in 2009. But with all this talk about Borderlands, what about the community? The community has been thriving by keeping Borderlands 3 alive for as long as possible, with that be Bordercast with Mitsu. That is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen when it comes to the Borderlands scene, and I hope it's still a thing when it comes to Wonderlands, because it's just cool to see them talk about the game with other content creators and basically talk about updates, talk about things that the game can improve upon, and all that kind of fun stuff. And I do think that the Bordercast show was a big factor in keeping the Borderlands 3 name in people's ears and keeping everybody up to date on things that are going to happen within said game. Even when the game ran out of content, we had people like Epic NNG alongside some other developers that made the Redux mod for Borderlands 3. Now, Redux is a mod that is similar to Borderlands 2 Reborn mod, in the aspect that it adds some new stuff to the game and makes the game basically a new feeling game. And Redux was honestly a underrated thing when it came to Borderlands 3, because even though it came out pretty early within the Borderlands lifecycle, the only reason it was in development so early was because, well, Borderlands 3 didn't have a lot of content. And the fact that the community came together and basically made their own content within a mod pack speaks volumes for how tightly knitted the Borderlands community actually is. But Borderlands has done way more than just things within the gaming space. Over the Borderlands 3 lifecycle, as a community, Borderlands has raised over $138,000 for St. Jude's Children's Hospital through the hunt events ran by Jolt's Dude, Killer 6, and many others within the Borderlands community over the past 2 years. Just honestly, big kudos to any creators or anyone that participated in any of the hunt events. It really is a big changing thing for the real world. But now I do want to toss some other creators' opinions in here. Now, Borderlands 3 has been deemed a easy or hard game, and that is very subjective to who you are, what your playstyle is, what your goals are, but it's always been a topic of discussion. Is Borderlands 3 necessarily a hard game? When you have things like infinite melee damage scaling, when you have Groundbreaker, when you have Cut Purse, Fish Slap, Guardian Angel, you know, you have all these different things. is this a hard game? And I do think Thickfillet says this perfectly on how a large portion of the Borderlands community feels when it comes to difficulty within these games.
Like, is it too much to ask to make hard difficulty hard and easy difficulty easy, so that way those players can actually segregate? Because, you know, a little bit of separation in player bases who want a little bit of a different experience is a good thing. You know, like, there's that whole argument online about how Dark Souls should have an easy mode for players who want to enjoy it. Well, Borderlands needs a hard mode for players who want to enjoy it.
Now, granted, I don't think it's going to be as simple as a hard difficulty, easy difficulty thing, but a matter of maybe a rebalance. Nothing like OP8 where it's just enemies have more health, therefore the game's harder. Maybe something along the lines of maybe Ultimate Vault Hunter mode and True Vault Hunter mode have different AIs, different boss mechanics, things along that nature that bring real difficulty to the game as opposed to artificial more health bars. And now I did talk to Moxie, since he is Damage Man, on opinions that he had when it came to, in Borderlands 3, is the player too powerful or is the content too easy? And here's what he had to say about that.
It's a weird balance, right? They gave us a 40 billion health Trant. And like, you saw from the community that people were one-shotting it with crazy things because we have so much at our hands for damage. So many options. But at the same time, like, so many people hated it because it's literally just a sponge. That I dislike is there really isn't a lot of trade-offs for damage. Because you have like lifesteal on a bunch of characters, and like there's just you're rarely ever really trading survivability for damage, because so many characters are just go all out on everything and you'll be fine. And fight for your life is way easier. It's so hard to die and fight for your life in this game, unless I guess maybe you're playing Zane. But yeah, no, I think Borderlands 3 is significantly easier than Borderlands 2. Granted, there's still people that struggle and find the content difficult, but in comparison, it's definitely easier.
Now, I do want to bring up mathematically that a lot of the damage dealing things within Borderlands 3 aren't even guns. Guns are probably the lowest damage on the spectrum of Borderlands 3 weaponry, simply because of the lack of power they have and the other different synergies that other items have. Grenades do more damage than guns. If you don't believe me, just check out the Hunter Seeker with a Unforgiven. There's even more powerful combos than just simply that, but it escalates to action skills. Groundbreaker, Amara with a grenade and Guardian Angel, Mose with her Iron Bear, Zane with his Digiclone, and it goes on. The list goes on and on, but guns are not the main damage dealing thing within Borderlands 3, or at least they're not the most highest damage dealing item within the game. But now that its Termex rant is finally over, I just want to get my final initial thoughts about this game out of my head so you guys know what headspace I am in personally. One thing I did want to bring up is Chadley made a really, really good point when it came to the Borderlands game in general, and I'll let you guys hear him out right now.
Really, the only thing that I wish Borderlands 3 did a bit better was just the quantity of endgame content, but also keeping up the challenge that was associated with it. When Maliwan Takedown first came out, it was very difficult, but as time has gone on, a lot of these endgame pieces of content that we have gotten pretty easy. So if it just would have kept up the challenge and also maybe even incentivized us to play co-op, that would have been huge. Borderlands has always been a big co-op game to me. That's how I started in the whole franchise, was playing co-op with one of my best friends.
Wonderlands, I hope, does execute things that Borderlands 3 failed to provide and make the game overall better. But now we talk about Wonderlands, and now moving on to the Wonderlands topic, we got to talk about the Epic exclusivity once again. Now this was a big fear factor when it came to Borderlands 3, and a lot of people for some reason say Borderlands 3's success was from Epic Store Launcher, which I think is dumb within itself. But honestly, I think K6 hits the nail on the head when it comes to this topic.
Warning, vulgarity awaits. What's going on, guys? This is Vinylic Puma, and I try to be calm in these videos, but this shit just makes me fucking livid. You know what grinds my gears today? fucking pearlescence. Oh no, not bolt actions, but fucking pearlescence. Who the fuck thought it would be a great idea to make a class of weapons that are rarer than legendaries, yet somehow worse?
Steam is fucking exclusive on like 90% of the games on Steam. You guys don't seem to have a problem with that exclusivity. Only when Epic does it, because Epic is the same company that has Fortnite, and you fucking hate Fortnite, so you shit on Epic because you hate Fortnite. I get it. I don't like Fortnite either. I don't give a fuck about Epic. I don't care about Epic Games or Steam. Having loyalty to either of these companies that doesn't give a fuck about you makes no goddamn sense. Don't do it. It makes no sense, people. Don't have a launcher loyalty. It's dumb. It's really dumb. You can have a preference. You can say I prefer play on Steam. Sure, that's fine. But being like, I'm never going to play on any other thing because Steam is the best and I love it.
And now I do agree that having your preferred launcher is of course something that you would want, but it's never something that should sway your opinion when it comes to just playing a game. Half the time, like he said, I just launch my game from my desktop icon, and I don't really look at anything else. Half the time, I just want to launch the game and play it, and I'm not staring at my launcher screen looking for other things to interact with. But now I do want to use this portion of this video to allow all the creators that participated within this video to say their thank yous to you guys, the Borderlands community, for everything that you guys have done for us, and I will play that for you guys right now.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Beeflatin here. Just wanted to say a huge thank you to Gearbox and also to 2K for an amazing, mayhem-filled adventure throughout the last couple of years. Thank you so much, Borderlands 3, for everything that you have given to us and other content creators and fans alike. We appreciate it a ton.
Huge thanks to Borderlands 3, the team that created it, and especially the community. The game definitely had its fair shares of ups and downs, especially over 2020, but it's still by far my favorite game, and the community it formed is honestly undefeated, and I cannot wait to see it grow even further with Wonderlands.
Just like without Borderlands 3, dude, I don't know where my channel would be, where I would be, because like this game, dude, I've played this game so much over the past 2 years, and I'm just truly thankful and grateful that Gearbox did make such a great game. You know, not a perfect game, okay, not perfect, but I do gotta give credit where credit's due, and I did really enjoy me some Borderlands 3. I think I speak for everybody when I say that this game holds a special place in our hearts. Huge shout out to the homie Turnmex, the Flak Pack leader himself, for having me on the channel on the video. Appreciate you, bud. Y'all subscribe to the homie Turnmex and everybody else who's in this beautiful video. Later, studs.
Borderlands 3 got me involved in the community and pushed me to want to create content from a developer's perspective. At the end of the day, Borderlands 3 will always hold a special place in my heart. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Borderlands 3. You've seriously changed my life in ways that I never thought would be possible.
Thank you, Borderlands 3, very much. You were the reason I am able to do content creation full time. I will never forget what you gave me.
Thank you so much, Borderlands 3.
Thank you, Borderlands 3.
Thank you, Borderlands 3.
Thank you, Borderlands 3, for all the entertainment, fun, and nightmares you gave us. Gearbox, you guys did great with the game, and I hope the franchise only goes uphill from here.
And most of all, I do want to say thank you to you guys for supporting me on my journey within Borderlands. In the span of 2 years, this channel has grown to almost 15,000 subscribers. And the Borderlands community, from my experience, has been nothing but amazing and supportive. And I really love the vibe that the Borderlands community has been showing me, and just in general theory crafting things, if it be theory videos or builds or anything of the sort. And I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys check us all out and stay by our channels for a while and watch some of our Borderlands and Wonderlands content. But you guys have a terrific day, and I'll see you guys later.